everyone. My name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. We are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We actually are going to be dropping a few thought pieces in the next upcoming month, so definitely be sure to check them out when you have an opportunity. And of course, if you're looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available wherever podcasts are playing, and we're happy to provide you with access to the links down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today's topic of discussion is education. On the topic of education this week, we're going to be talking about the education that starts at home around communication. And while we have lots of information flowing from here and there and everywhere, not all of it is with the intent of communicating, because communication has an intention, it has a purpose, and it also has a methodology. And a lot of the times we're thinking that just because we're talking, we're communicating, but that is not the case. Communication is an art, and it is a science, and it is done with deliberation and intention, which means automatically that if you're emotional, if you're trying to be seen and you're trying to be heard, you're less effective in communicating a message than if you were intentional in trying to see and in trying to encapsulate your message so that the person who is receiving it is able to retain it. And so this is communication at all levels. So for those of you who don't know, I have a background in institutional communications, and some of what you forget is that communication is a psychology behind it, and there has to be a psychology behind communication because it is the way that we interact and understand each other. It is a fundamental practice of language, right? But other things require language too. So being emotional, there's language that we can attribute to that. Wanting to express yourselves, there's language attributed to that. But when you're communicating, you're wanting to express yourself for the intention of delivering a message. And if you're delivering a message, then you need to recognize that that message isn't about you, it's about the person that you're delivering it to. So there's a few fundamentals that you have to keep in mind if you want your delivery to land, right? And I think that that's the really focal point about communication. A lot of people forget that if you don't know your audience, then you're not in a position to be able to communicate to them. And that's whether that's your partner, that's whether that's a friend, that's whether that's your stakeholders, the different people that you are responsible for. You have to know them to communicate to them. And why you have to know them? Because when you're communicating, you're meeting them at their level, which means communication is an act of service. When you're communicating to someone, you're out of your own head and you're putting yourself in minds, bodies, thoughts of the people that you're communicating to. And this is really important because for your message to land, it needs to be framed, it needs to be tailored to your audience. And if you don't know your audience, then you're not in a position to tailor your communication to them. And if you're not being intentional and making sure that your message is tailored for your audience, and also there's going to be a gap, you're going to be in different wavelengths and you're not communicating to them. So some fundamentals, whether you are communicating to a single person or to a group of individuals, that you need to understand. One is domain specificity, which means language is tailored to a specific community, to a specific expertise, so on and so forth. Language shifts and changes depending on the people who are using it, which is why even in a language, like when we think about English, it looks and feels and sounds different in England than it does in Canada. And even in Canada, it looks and sounds different across the different provinces because different communities take the language and make it their own. But as they make it their own, if you're looking to have a communication land with a given community, you need to know the language, which means you need to know more than having the common languages of English. You need to know how they speak amongst one another, their network of language, and that's what you need to tap into when you're delivering a communication to them. Another very fundamental principle when you're communicating to a person or to a group of people are their learning styles. You need to communicate in a way that that group of individuals or that individual themselves orients around in the world around them. So if you know that they're a visual learner, you can use visual words like see, look, observe. All of those things are words that are going to land because that's how they've taken information. If they're more kinesthetic, if they're more physical, then touch, frame, put together. You're using words that talk about touching and physically interacting with the world around them. If they're more auditory, then hear, receive, like different words that really align to the way that they take in information as individuals or even as a group. And as a group, you're gonna know if you have access to the ways that they have their meetings. If their meetings are stand-up meetings where they have to have the face-to-face, and that gives you a sense as to how tactile they are. If their meetings are about, physically getting to a bar, like if it's about interaction and community, if it's about having that emotional connection, then that needs to also tailor into your communication. If it's more pragmatic and more direct, then that needs to tailor into your communication. So if you think about all of the things that you really want to have top of mind for it to be considered a communication, if you're not considering those things, then you're just talking, and talking with the intention of thinking that you're communicating is going to lead to your own personal frustration because your message simply isn't going to land if you're being egocentric in the way that you're delivering your message, because communication is a selfless activity. It is an activity that is done without yourself being considered. You have to consider the person that you're communicating towards, tailor your message for that person. It needs to be something that you really are very intentional and mindful about, and you need to have those fundamentals in place for your communication to land. So a lot of the times people think, well, I'm emotional, I have this message, it's really important to me for them to hear it, and so you deliver it the way that you would receive it. And that often is a failure in communication, and not a failure of the person who is not receiving that communication, but a failure in your ability to package that information for it to be well received. And so this is a quick tidbit. I'm gonna see how this communication lands before I go deeper into it, because I love talking about communication. I love framing communication in a way that makes it digestible, because it really is robust. And because we're in the digital revolution, this is a revolution of knowledge, all of us have become very adaptable in the way that we take in information. Like, we're a lot more gracious than what we have been in the past, in that even if the message isn't really tailored for us, we're gonna do more heavy lifting than most generations have done. Most people, if that message isn't tailored for them, if it isn't accessible, if it isn't digestible, they're just not going to retain it. We do a little bit more, from what I've personally observed, than what has been done to really tailor the communicator in the past. But I think that rather than expect the person or the people or the group or the entities that you're communicating to tailor and to adapt to accommodate your message, even though your message isn't fully tailored to them, why not take some of the practices that I mentioned in this video, put them into place so that your communication lands every time. Psychology is such an important factor that plays into community, that plays into language, and the way that we leverage language to communicate effectively. And so that was what I wanted to talk about in today's segment, hopefully helpful and engaging to you. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future, on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops largely focused on self-mastery over and above those events. So check it out. Be part of our game changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. We are on the road to 1K, so we do invite you to follow us across all of our social media platforms, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.